Okay, good afternoon. We are returning to Hatchet with myself, Robert Teacher. Today we're going to be reading Hatchet page 40 to 45 in this copy of the book. Your pages might be a little different. So we are starting with chapter 5. So let's read and look at some vocabulary. Okay, so let's read along. His eyes snapped open, hammered open, and there were these things about himself that he knew instantly. He was unbelievably, viciously thirsty. His mouth was dry and tasted foul and sticky. His lips were cracked and felt as if they were bleeding. If he did not drink some water soon, he felt that he would wither up and die. Lots of water. All the water he could find. He knew the thirst and felt the burn on his face. It was mid-afternoon, and the sun had come over him and cooked him while he slept, and his face was on fire, would blister, would peel. Which should not help the thirst, made it much worse. He stood, using the tree to pull himself up, because there was still some pain and much stiffness, and looked down at the lake. Okay, so our first word is stiffness. Inability to move easily without pain. So every time he moves, his shoulder, his knee, his neck, everything hurts every time he moves because of the stiffness. It was water, but he did not know if he could drink it. Nobody had ever told him if you could or could not drink lakes. There was also the thought of the pilot. Down in the blue with the plane, strapped in, the body. Awful, he thought. But the lake was blue and wet looking, and his mouth and throat raged with the thirst, and he did not know where there might be another form of water he could drink. Besides, he had probably swallowed a ton of it while he was swimming out of the plane and getting to shore. In the movies, they always showed the hero finding a clear spring with pure, sweet water to drink. But in the movies, they didn't have plane wrecks and swollen foreheads and aching bodies and thirsted toward the hero until he could think. Yes, pure, sunsuhan. It means not mixed with or adulterated with any other substance or material. He wants to find pure water, clean water, but he doesn't know. Is a lake clean water? Is a lake pure water? Is a pond pure water? Okay. In movies, people drink out of it, but that's just a movie. So let's continue on. Brian took small steps toward the bank to the lake. Along the edge, there were thick grasses, and the water looked a little murky, and there were small things swimming in the water, small bugs. But there was a log extending about 20 feet out into the water of the lake. A beaver drop from some time before, with old limbs sticking up, almost like handles. He balanced on the log, holding himself up with the limbs, and teetered out past the weeds and murky water. Teeter, teetering, move or balance unsteadily, sway back and forth. So he's walking across the log, but teetering back and forth because his body is not okay. Let's continue. When he was out where the water was clear and he could see no bugs swimming, he kneeled on the log to drink. A sip, he thought, still worrying about the lake water. I'll just take a sip. But when he brought a cupped hand to his mouth and felt the cold lake water trickle past his cracked lips and over his tongue, he could not stop. He had never, not even on long bike trips in the hot summer, been this thirsty. It was as if the water were more than water, as if the water had become all of life, and he could not stop. He stooped and put his mouth to the lake and drank, pulling in deep and swallowing great gulps of it. He drank until his stomach was swollen, until he nearly fell off the log with it. Then he rose and stagger-tripped his way back to the bank, where he was immediately sick and threw up most of the water. But his thirst was gone, and the water seemed to reduce the pain in his head as well, although the sunburn still cooked his face. Immediately, Jukshi, at once, instantly. So he drank all this lake water and immediately was sick and threw up the water. Okay? So, he almost jumped with the words spoken aloud. It seemed so out of the place. The sob. He tried it again. So here I am. And there it is, he thought. For the first time since the crash, his mind started to work. His brain triggered, and he began thinking, here I am. And where is that? Where am I? He pulled himself once more up the bank to the tall tree without branches and sat again with his back against the rough bark. It was hot now, but the sun was high to his rear, and he sat in the shade of the tree in relative comfort. There were things to sort out. Here I am, and that is nowhere. With his mind open and thoughts happening, it all tried to come in with a rush, all of what had occurred, and he could not take it. The whole thing turned into a confused jumble that made no sense. So he fought it down and tried to take one thing at a time. He had been flying north to visit his father for a couple of months in the summer, and the pilot had had a heart attack and had died, and the plane had crashed somewhere in the Canadian Northwoods, but he did not know how far they had flown, or in what direction, or where he was. Slow down, he thought. Slow down more. My name is Brian Robinson. I am 13 years old, and I am alone in the North Woods of Canada. All right, he thought, that's simple enough. I was flying to visit my father, and the plane crashed and sank in a lake. There, keep it that way. Short thoughts. I do not know where I am, which doesn't mean much. More to the point, they do not know where I am. They, meaning anybody who would be wanting to look for me. The searchers. Searchers. These are the people who are attempting to find someone or something by looking or otherwise seeking carefully and thoroughly. You see rescue searchers in the picture. Brian thinks they can't know where he is. So how will the searchers find him? Okay, let's continue. They would look for him, look for the plane. His father and mother would be frantic. They would tear the world apart to find him. Brian had seen searches on the news, seen movies about lost planes. When a plane went down, they mounted extensive searches, and almost always they found the plane within a day or two. Pilots all filed flight plans, a detailed plan for where and when they were going to fly, with all the courses explained. They would come. They would look for him. The searchers would get government planes and cover both sides of the flight plan filed by the pilot and search until they found him. Maybe even today. They might come today. This was the second day after the crash. No, Brian frowned. Was it the first day or the second day? They had gone down in the afternoon, and he had spent the whole night out cold, so this was the real first day. But they could still come today. They would have started the search immediately when Brian's plane did not arrive. Yeah, they would probably come today. Probably come in here with amphibious planes, small bush planes with floats. They could land right here on the lake and pick him up and take him home. Okay, amphibious. Amphibious means that it can be in water, like this frog, or in land. Frogs are amphibious, water or land. Some planes can land on the land or land on the water. Those are amphibious planes. So amphibious can work on the water or work on land. Okay, amphibious. Okay, which home? The father home or the mother home? He stopped the thinking. It didn't matter. Either onto his dad or back to his mother. Either way, he would probably be home by late night or early morning, home where he could sit down and eat a large, cheesy, juicy burger with tomatoes and double fries with ketchup and a thick chocolate shake. And there came hunger. Brian rubbed his stomach. The hunger had been there, but something else. Fear, pain, had held it down. Now, with the thought of the burger, the emptiness roared at him. He could not believe the hunger, had never felt it this way. The lake water had filled his stomach, but left it hungry. Now it demanded food, screamed for food. And there was, he thought, absolutely nothing to eat. Nothing. What did they do in the movies when they got stranded like this? Oh yes, the hero usually found some kind of plant that he knew was good to eat, and then took care of it. Just ate the plant until he was full, or used some kind of cute trap to catch an animal and cook it over a slick little fire, and pretty soon he had a full 8-course meal. The trouble, Brian thought, looking around, was that all he could see was grass and brush. There was nothing obvious to eat, and aside from about 1 million birds and the beaver, he hadn't seen animals to trap and cook. And even if he got one somehow, he didn't have any matches, so he couldn't have a fire. Nothing. It kept coming back to that. He had nothing. Okay, so demanded. His stomach demanded, insist on having food. He needs to have food now. Okay? So, he has nothing. Let's do a recap of the story for pages 40 to 45. Okay? So to start, Brian realizes that he is really hungry and thirsty because he hasn't eaten or drank anything since before the plane ride. So you have the plane ride, then the evening that he's sleeping, then when he woke up and slept again. So it's probably been 36 to 48 hours before he's had anything to eat or drink. So he's very thirsty, very hungry. He doesn't know if the lake water is pure or dirty, but he decides to drink from the water from the lake. And immediately after he drinks the water, he throws up. He gets sick. Okay? After this, Ryan realizes he's all alone in the woods and gets really, really sad. He knows that he deviated from the flight plan. Searchers and rescuers probably can't find him, probably can't come to this area. He is alone in the woods and very, very sad about it. Okay? And finally, he starts to think about TV shows and movies and surviving. He tries to consider what to do next. In TV shows, they would catch animals, find plants to eat, set traps, make fires, but he doesn't have the tools to make a fire. He doesn't have a trap to trap food, and he doesn't see any animal except for birds. So, what is he going to eat? What is he going to drink? Everything he knows about is not useful. Okay, so let's look at our vocabulary one more time. We have stiffness, inability to move easily and without pain. He's very stiff still from the accident. His body hurts when he moves. Pure, sunsuhan, not mixed or adulterated with any other substance or material. Is it pure water or dirty water? Pure food or dirty food? Brian doesn't know. Teeter, teetering, move or balance unsteadily, sway back and forth. Brian's body is very hurt, so when he's moving, he's teetering off balance. Immediately, Jushi, at once, instantly. His body demands water immediately. His body demands food immediately. He needs to eat and drink. Okay. Searchers. A person who would attempt to find someone or something by looking or otherwise seeking carefully and thoroughly. Brian hopes searchers are looking for him to take him home to his mom or his dad. Okay. Amphibious. Relating to living in or suited for land and water. Frogs are amphibious. Okay. Demanded. Yogudo. Insist on having. His body insists on having food and water. Okay, so that's everything for today. See you next time. Goodbye.